Hi, I'm John Urkus. I'm the Fire Program Manager for Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, and today I'd like to talk to you about some good fire planning. Greetings, everyone. In this video, we'll be talking about how to craft good maps for a burn plan. Now, no matter what program a person uses for creating a map, the principles of what makes a good map remain the same. All the maps I used for this demonstration were made using Google Earth Pro, a free program. If you would like a tutorial on that program, please watch the video I made that is dedicated to the topic. So when you're making a burn plan map, please think about who that map is made for. The first purpose of mapping in the burn plan process is to illustrate the burn plan, explain items in the burn plan. The second purpose is to provide that same information to the burn crew. So please keep both of those audiences in mind when making a map. The first and most important map in a burn plan is the unit map. This illustrates, again, both items in the burn plan and translates those items to the burn crew. Now we'll run through a few elements of a quality unit map. Obviously, the first thing to have is a good aerial photo. Now, hopefully this is a recent photo with good resolution and in a color scheme that allows someone to differentiate the different habitat types. The next feature, of course, is a unit boundary. This is a good time to think about your color scheme. One year I had someone on my crew that was red-green colorblind, and I needed to adjust all my maps to meet that person's needs. So think about what kind of colors are used and what people can see. The next item to add is drop points. Now, drop points are great for identifying anything of interest on the map. Try putting them around the perimeter. They do not need to be evenly spaced, but identify changes or items. For instance, drop point 2 is placed to mark a habitat change between grassland and forest. Drop point 6 actually marks a ditch crossing. I use numbers rather than letters because a lot of letters sound the same over the radio. Labeling of roads is another important feature. Google Earth does this automatically at certain scales. The next item on a good burn map is to label fuel types. Now, this helps the viewers interpret the aerial photo. Might be easy for you, it might not be easy for them. For instance, aspen woodlands and oak woodlands burn very differently, and labeling them differently will allow the crew to make predictions about fire behavior. Labeling concentrations of hazardous fuels, such as the cattails in the northwest corner, is also important. This basically allows people to know by looking at a map what is coming ahead and adjust their tactics as a result. The next step is to label the location of backup water sources. Here, 2 stock ponds are identified that could serve as locations for a portable pump. Finally, the map needs to have the basic map elements such as a title, a legend, scale, and north arrow. Finally, there might just be a whole bunch of other items that you could label. Uh, think about the following list here and consider if any of them ought to be put on the map. Things like staging areas or topography, water features, power lines, access points, interior fences, or ignition lines, hazards, features that need protecting, or nearby structures. For my example map, I thought that an interior ignition path, a power line, an exterior fence, and a nearby hunting cabin were worth putting on the map. And that ends up making what, in my opinion, is a completely adequate burn unit map. It illustrates what is in the burn plan. It translates that information to the burn crew and isn't too cluttered. And while the unit map is the main map, there are other maps you may want to consider adding to your burn plan. The next really important map is a contingency map. A contingency map informs any decision making for escaped fires or other emergencies. While it contains much of the same information as the unit map, it is zoomed out to the nearest fire barriers. The information on the map is used to inform suppression strategies for the resources on site, as well as any wildfire resources that will come to the site. Now, the first element of a contingency map is, besides things that are in the unit map, such as a good aerial photo and the unit boundary, is a contingency line. Now, this is the nearest barrier to fire, such as roads and agricultural fields. Note that there isn't a contingency line on this map to the west, and that's because there isn't a barrier within 4 miles. So I thought it was unrealistic to include a contingency line in that direction. And because of that, I should probably really reconsider the uh, prescription for this unit and whether or not a west wind or an east wind is allowed for this unit. Next, highlight any structures or other resources that would need protection if there was an escape. Next, label the surrounding fuels. And yeah, the surrounding fuels. Now, other items that may be added are road names, any trails that are important, any access points or crossings that are really important to know, but also if you need to, label a potential heli spot for medical evac if that's important. So again, a contingency map is meant to provide the critical information needed for emergency situations. The audience for this is the crew on hand, but also if there are wildfire resources coming, they might think this map is very important. So that is a contingency map. Another map that is often included in burn plans are smoke maps. But because smoke is regulated at the state level, there's a lot of differences in how these look and what is required. So I won't spend too much time on this as uh, this is largely variable on a state level. Now, some plans use a bullseye diagram to highlight how far smoke sensitive sites are from a fire, but sometimes a contingency map does that just fine, and therefore smoke maps could be redundant. But again, different states require different things. Smoke can also be modeled using programs like vSmoke, or if you're able to get a spot forecast can model that smoke for you. but using that information often requires more professional mapping programs. So an optional map if it's needed, um, and you might need help making one. A final map is a hospital map, directions to the nearest hospital. Uh, this could be very handy in an emergency situation. If someone needs to be driven to a hospital, this page could be ripped right out of the burn plan and given to the driver, so they don't need to figure that out and save time. So not hard to generate, but could be very handy in a medical situation. So finally, in conclusion, making good maps, it's an essential skill to good burn planning. Spending the time to make a good burn map will save time in the burn plan review process. It'll save time and confusion in the field when the burn is conducted. So while this isn't exhaustive, I hope this training has showed you some of the basic principles of what makes a good burn map.